Today I have Yolanda and Abraham Williams. They're with Keller Williams Realty, and they are realtors and brokers. And today our topic is going to be, how do I purchase an investment property? It's a lot of information, and we're going to try to get most of it to you in this 1 hour. But we're also going to encourage you to call Yolanda and Abraham so they can actually walk you through the process. Because two things you need when you're purchasing an investment property, and that is an experienced realtor who has the time and patience to walk you through it and are willing to do it, and also a loan officer who has the products that you need to get you through the process. So we're going to start by asking a couple of questions. You're with Keller Williams Realty.
Yes.
And how long have you guys been in the business? How long have you been in real estate?
I've been in real estate now for a total of 15 years. It's been about 15 years of doing real estate.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
And Abraham?
And for me, it's been 14 years since 2000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, we were talking right before, and you guys are not only real estate agents, but you're a partnership.
Yes.
You're married and a partnership in business and in life, which is excellent. Okay. And successful in both areas, and that's something to be congratulated.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
And so as far as your careers are concerned, I know, Yolanda, both of you and Abraham both, are realtors, licensed realtors. But in addition to that, you have a broker's license.
Absolutely.
Okay. And could you explain the difference or what that means?
Yes. Well, the difference between a realtor and a broker is that a realtor, yes, they are licensed and they can service residential properties as well. But when you're a broker, you can do residential and commercial.
Okay.
And you can also handle financing.
Oh, okay.
So with the broker's license, you can cover quite a bit.
Quite the entire gamut.
Yes.
And typically you have a real estate agent who actually works underneath the brokers. Normally there's one broker of an office,
Right.
and the real estate agents work underneath that broker.
Okay, so
That's
you
fine.
would be the broker, and Yolanda would be the real estate agent that works with you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But
Okay.
still,
Still,
she's the boss.
she's the boss.
Yeah, she's the
Okay,
boss.
that you know what? That's how it comes. The marriage is lasting. Okay, so one of the questions that came up, I started texting everyone to let them know to listen to the show and on my Facebook page and all that. And one of the biggest questions people had about investment property is, how do I get started? Like, should I buy my first property first, like a single family first, and then buy units, or can I move into a duplex? How do I get started? Can you guys address that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
There's really no right or wrong way to do it. Some people do start off by buying a single family residence, letting the equity grow in that property, taking the money out of that property by refinancing or doing a bridge loan, and from that they'll take that monies and they'll go into a duplex or a fourplex or even a fiveplex. So that's what you see more of, the traditional. Or some people may have money already. They're taking their money out of their IRA, their 401k, and they'll go in and start off just buying a fourplex.
Okay.
Or a duplex. So it just depends on which direction you want to go.
Okay, so me being, the common person, and I might have a small 401k or an IRA, but I don't really have any money in there per se to pull out. So, we were talking beforehand, and I encouraged you, tell us how because you guys have purchased properties for investment purposes and, as your own personal residence.
Yes.
And so how did you get started? Because, the real question is in the minds of people is that, I have an X amount of dollars and I want to do the right thing. I want to invest it, and I want to invest in real estate, but I need a place to live too. So how do we do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And and I'll let my wife take it from here. We started more of that route. That's the way we started. We didn't have a bunch of money. We were limited funds.
Right.
And we took the route that you just talked about. And I'll let my wife go into how we actually started with our investment journey and owning property.
Okay.
Yeah, when we first started investing, I had just graduated college, and I was looking through the penny saver, and I wanted to buy a property, And so in that penny saver, I found a realtor, and I went and met with him, and he qualified me, and he actually introduced me to a lender, and that lender qualified me. I qualified for $150,000 at that time. And for me, that was a lot of money.
Right.
I was thinking, I'm just graduating college, $150,000. Wow, that's a lot.
Right.
I'm going to buy my first property. So I was excited.
Right.
And unfortunately, the realtor at that time felt there was not going to be enough money that he would make from me.
Oh, wow.
So because $150,000 at that time, a commission for him wouldn't have been enough at the time for him to make
in
off
his
of
mind.
me, in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I can do this. So I went, and I just, as I mentioned, graduated college. So instead, I studied real estate and got my real estate license. And my first property was a condo.
Okay.
And I lived in that condo for some time. And then after I lived there, and by then, Abraham and I met, and we started dating. And we took that property, and we kept it. We pulled equity out of it.
Okay.
And we went and we invested into a townhome. So
Okay.
we went from a condo to a townhome. So now we're on our second property.
Right.
So from the townhome, we did the same thing. We were
Okay,
able
now,
to.
did you keep the
We kept the condo.
okay,
So we
and you
kept the
rented
condo.
out?
We rented it out.
Okay,
And
pulled
so
equity out of
We
it
pulled equity out.
so that you could put a down payment on your second property.
Put a down payment on the second property.
Okay,
So then what we did for ourselves at that time was we created a residual income.
that's right.
So the monies from the condo paid for the townhome.
That's right.
Okay, so from that property, then we went on to purchase our first single-family residence.
Okay.
So now at this point, we're creating our portfolio.
That's right.
And we're also creating, again, residual income at 2 properties now.
That's right.
And now we have 2 tenants. We have a tenant for our condo. Now we have a tenant for our townhome.
That's right.
And now we're living in the single-family residence. And if I can just back up for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
our third property was a duplex.
Okay.
Because we had someone living in our front unit,
Uh-huh.
and we lived in the back.
Okay.
So that was our third income property. At that point, now we've gone from renters
That's right.
to living in our property, which then turned into investors.
Right.
So from renting to investors, now we're the landlord.
That's right.
Now we're collecting monies
That's right.
monthly,
That's
which
right.
we never could see that at the time because,
Mhm.
again, just graduating college, we moved from one property to another.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when, at this time, Abraham and I threw in all of that time, ended up getting married, and
Right.
it went on from there. But we were able to create a portfolio of properties at our third property. And then
Wow.
we continue from there.
Okay.
And as time and as years went on, we plan to purchase a property every year.
Wow.
So we had 7 income properties. That was including residential as well as commercial and duplex
Okay.
and apartments.
And we're going to talk about the difference between 1 to 4 units and when you cross over into commercial property and
Correct.
when you have 5 units or more.
Mhm.
And we're going to talk about, the difference between those properties and how you can acquire, have a multitude of properties in a portfolio, but how you get started. Because
Right.
some people may want to, like you said, purchase a property a year, or they just might want 2 or 3 properties, or whatever their goal is. We're going to talk about how to get them to that point.
Correct.
Now, if someone wants to contact you
Yes.
and get started, what are the phone numbers and, email addresses, or how do they reach you?
Okay. Abraham and I'll have Abraham to provide his information.
Okay.
But I can be reached at area code 562-755-3123. And our email address is zbestoffer@yahoo.com. Is it
I would prefer that they use this email address. This would be
Okay.
a better one. YKellyWilliams@kw.com, because that goes to both
To both
Okay.
of you.
both of
Okay.
us, so
Okay.
we can actually get the email message. That's YKellyWilliams@kw.com.
Okay.
Okay.
Not a problem.
And then what is your contact information?
Contact me
Mhm.
directly at 562-755-1602. That's 562-755-1602.
Perfect. Okay, we're going to talk about the basics here, whether you want to if you're buying a property, some of the basics in investment properties are buying, renovating, and either selling or leasing, depending on the style you want to use in your investment property purchases.
Mm-hmm.
And so you guys have done the gamut,
Yes.
and so your experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then so when you sit down with the client, and this is important, and this is one of the reasons I had you on the show, because I know this from my own experience with you, is when you sit down with a client, you not only talk to them about this purchase, but you talk to them about what their future plans are, how they see their life unfolding, and what they'd like to accomplish.
Yes.
And so could you speak to that a little bit? Like when you get a person that comes in, what do you sit down and talk to them about?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things we do is sit down with our clients, and we want to go over, if they're interested in purchasing a single-family residence house first, or if they want to purchase a duplex first, to build that portfolio. You don't necessarily have to start off with a single family. That's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
We start off with a house first, and then we leveraged that to go buy other properties.
Mm-hmm.
But you can start off with a duplex.
Okay.
And with the duplex, you can have that other tenant that's living there help you pay for your mortgage.
Absolutely.
So you can start that. You can start that way, or you can start off even with a fourplex.
That's right.
Right, with four units. But the first thing that we do is sit down and just figure out a plan.
Right.
We put the plan together. We find out what your interests are. Do you want a single family?
Right.
The average person stays in the house for 5 years.
That's right.
And then they move on. So if you want to live in a house, and keep in mind, sometimes, I want to back up a little bit, your first house or your first investment may not be the dream investment.
We talked about that a little bit, and I'd like you guys to elaborate on that too.
Yes.
Sometimes the first thing we do is we say, I want to buy a house, and then the first thing you do is look in Beverly Hills. And I mean, that's great.
Right.
You get in a car with your friends and you start saying, I want that house, I want that house. Or you go down to Laguna Niguel, or you go out to Newport Beach, or you go to Santa Barbara.
Yes.
You do all of this, and that's fine if that's the income bracket that you're in. But the first thing you have to do is be pre-qualified so that you have a more focused look at property, so that you know where you are, and to sit down with people like you who are experienced realtors,
Yes.
who are going to walk them through the process. And it's really a partnership between the realtor and the loan officer, so that when you sit down with them, they get a realistic perspective of what they can do now, and then how they can build economic wealth through real estate over a lifetime. And that's really what we're talking about.
Yes.
So step one, and I'm glad you brought that up, Abraham, is that your first property may not be your dream property.
Right.
It may be just what it is, a starter property.
It may be a starter property, but you have to look at that as a stepping stone. I
Yes.
remember, you mind if I tell a quick story?
Oh, no, go right
I
ahead.
remember going with a mentor of mine, God rest his soul, is Rodney Shepherd. We actually, at that time I thought I was pretty successful.
Right.
And he was successful in his own right.
Right.
And so I went to go visit him at his office, and I pulled up in my car, and I pull up in my car and pull up to his office on Crenshaw, and I told him to get in my car because I wanted to impress him.
Right.
So he says, no, we're going to take my car, which was a Ford Expedition at the time.
Uh-huh.
So I had planned to take him to Houston, somewhere. I wanted to really impress him.
Right.
And he says, no, I have a place for us already to eat. And he took me for a tour in Watts.
Yes.
We toured the entire Watts. I was like, why is he bringing me here?
Right.
I want to see other properties. He's bringing me here. And he started pointing out all the investments that he had made,
Yes.
and all the properties that he had built.
Yes.
And I really got it that time when he was showing me that you don't have to start buying properties in Beverly Hills, and if you can afford that, that's fine.
That's fine,
But
right.
that's not how he did it.
That's right.
So, and then he took me to, I wanted to take him to Houston's, and like I said, all these beautiful restaurants. He took me to Jordan's Cafe.
Yes.
And we had sweet tea.
Yes.
And we sat down, and he just gave me an education at that time. And it was at that point that I really realized what he was showing me.
Right.
You don't have to start at certain places. You got to really look at the big picture.
That's right.
There's money in these areas.
That's
Not saying
right.
you have to buy there if you choose not to, but don't overlook it.
That's right.
Right? If you're in South Central, Compton, Watts, if you're wherever you're at. If the area has Blythe, you can invest there. There's
That's
economic
right.
development in those areas.
That's
And
absolutely
you
right.
can get opportunities in those areas.
Yeah, and you know, if with that vision, if you notice, and you do, I mean, look what happened in New York.